right. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Vince Devall with Eagle Homes, powered by EXP, and we're the Eagles Nest podcast. I'm here with Adam Bradshaw from Chicago Title. Adam, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Vince. I'm actually the rep for Chicago Title, Wisconsin. I am representing Walworth, Kenosha, and Racine County. I'm kind of the, I try to basically be the PR for the company and be out there bringing on new business for all of us and just helping continue to grow the brand as we go along into this interesting market we're in nowadays.
Yeah, that's the truth. So, besides working for Chicago Title, what do you do for fun?
I'm an avid golfer, as you know already.
Yeah, we just had a good conversation about that.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's been kind of a habit that's formed since I started this job. Knowing a lot of realtors and lenders out there and whatnot, and being a part of all the associations, that's become a bit of a habit that I've developed over the years. As well as that, I'm a pretty big hair metal fan. Aerosmith specifically is probably one of my favorite bands out there. Motley Crue, all of that. So people always look at me like, you're a young buck, but you like all these bands from like that your dad should like your grandpa or something like that.
Right.
That's just the generation of music I was raised up on. So that's just something I'm a big fan of. And I'm also a big Packer fan. I mean, you can't be from Wisconsin and not be a Packer fan. So I'm always out and about repping that, losing my mind every time they lose in January every year. So that's always a lot of fun too.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the trade this offseason?
Oh yeah. I'm actually kind of happy about it. I think he's kind of becoming a head case. I think it was time for him to get out of there. He's one of the greatest players I've ever had. I respect that. But, when you're going on there, you're talking about all that stuff he was doing in the off season, creating all that controversy, starting all that. I mean, you're just becoming more of a distraction, and it's, you're taking away from the core values of the team at that point. So for me, it was time to go.
Yeah, I'm not a Packers. I'm a Bears fan. So I'm originally from Illinois, married a Packer fan. So it's a great rivalry in our house. But I agree. Like there's something to be said about leadership and team members and whatnot. So I think it was a good move for the Packers. And hopefully they can build something around Jordan Love.
Back to the basement like the 80s. I was never even around for that, so I'm not really looking forward to it.
As a Bears fan, I'm kind of excited about it.
Oh, I'm sure you are. Yeah.
How many times we've seen our hopes like all of a sudden get inflated, and then fourth quarter just crushed. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
How long have you been at Chicago Title?
I've been here going to be 3 years, coming up in September. So I got in the industry right in the middle of the second COVID scare. Very, very interesting time to be getting into real estate and just title insurance in general. My first week on the job was just in and out of the Lake Geneva office constantly. They were showing me kind of the process of, how to become a notary and, what each document is, and kind of gave me the ins and outs. So it was what I always like to say, it's like a trial by fire, like sink or swim type of situation. They gave me a lot of resources and helped me cultivate myself as a rep and understanding the industry and the market around me. But a lot of it was learn on the go, which for me personally is the best way to go about it. I mean, you can't really know what you're doing until you're actually physically doing it in front of you. Right. So I came in, closings were, completely split off. I mean, sellers in one room, buyers in another, everything got split off that way. People were so sensitive, they didn't want to come into the office. I had to get on a clipboard, little sticky pads out there, sign here, 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 here. And then they give me the clipboard and come back. I had to go back in the office. They'd call me and then they say, okay, I got everything signed, come back. And then I got to check it before they leave. So sometimes if they didn't sign, I'd be like, hey, don't leave yet. Come back. I need you to sign the statement or the gap endorsement, something like that. And it just ended up being a lot of interesting stuff that happened. But now things are kind of loosening up a little bit. And now I'm starting to get a good taste of what, things are like on the outside world. Right.
What it really should have been and is. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I came from an inside sales role before this, and I just dial all day, and after a while, that's just mind numbing. It's some people love it. That's great, but for me, I like to be able to do stuff like this. Cultivate relationships, be in front of people like that, and just put a face to the name rather than, hey, I'm just the guy on the phone trying to sell you this package, whatever it might be. Right.
Right. Yep. So what drove you to Chicago Title? I mean, there's other title companies out there. Did you know somebody? Did just the inside loop? How'd you get to Chicago Title?
So I was still doing a little job hunting in the middle of the COVID boom. I knew I didn't want to be in inside sales forever. I had a recruiter, I think her name was Alex Archer, actually reach out to me, and she sold everything from top to bottom to me in the first initial call. I met with the Wisconsin state manager, Jim Yestison, in the middle of all this, and him and I hit it off very quickly. He seemed to see some aptitude in me that I still don't see in myself sometimes, but I'll take it.
Right. Got to.
Yeah, him and I it seemed like a perfect fit, and the company itself just has a lot of awesome resources at your disposal to help you succeed. So eventually it became a no-brainer after a while, and I've been here ever since, and I'm still as happy as can be.
That's awesome. So just a few minutes ago, you mentioned title insurance. Can what is title insurance? Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so title insurance is kind of a unique form of insurance. It's essentially the transfer of the property from seller to buyer and making sure that everything is clean in that sense. Because a lot of properties, when you're looking at it, it's going to have liens, judgments, easements, there's a lot of baggage that's going to come with any specific property, whether it's residential or commercial, right? Essentially what title insurance is trying to do is make sure that when the buyer gets this property, that they're not dealing with any extra baggage on top of that, which that could be, maybe an outstanding mortgage, maybe a developer lien, maybe the roof was replaced 10, 15 years ago, they never got paid. And you're making sure that the new owner is not responsible for the past owner's issues, right? Yeah. So the whole idea of what we're trying to do is making sure that you're covered for the foreseeable future, and that you don't have to worry about any boogeyman in the closet, as I like to say. We've had it essentially, if let's say a bank comes back and says, hey, this mortgage from 1997 never got paid off, you still owe us $30,000 or something like that. Stuff like that. Yeah. The current buyer had nothing to do with it. It's an owner from that maybe died a couple years ago, or maybe he just he's not associated with the property anymore. That's not on that owner. If title insurance doesn't show that and it's a viable claim, the title company is responsible for paying out that amount, and therefore you're covered. So that's essentially why you want to have title insurance, because you never know what could come looming from the past. My boss kind of says it the best. It's the only insurance that starts covering you from a date going backwards. Yeah. Whereas, you got health insurance, you got car insurance, if you get in an accident, you're covered. Somebody from the past tries to come mess with you, that's why we got you covered. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how many times, talking about title insurance, how many times do you see where, we'll use the roof example, someone put a roof on 15 years ago, put a lien against the property, and then, the owners paid it, but the company didn't pull the lien off the property? Does that happen often?
From time to time, I've seen it occur. It's definitely a common thing that you can see happen with a lot of different title companies. Usually all we got to do is, in the middle of the closing process, we got to reach out to the developer. We just get a satisfaction issued. And then from there, we're able to get that removed from title, and we're good. It's usually a pretty open and shut situation, but sometimes there can be complications. But in my experience, that's usually if it's already been paid off, we'll get a satisfaction issue from the company, whoever that third party might be, off you go, and everybody's happy. Yeah.
So tell me, why is it important to have that clean title?
Like I said before, you just want to make sure that you don't have anything looming over you. There's a lot of different people out there that are trying to get, obviously put their hands in your pocket and get their what's due to them. Rightfully so. If you're a developer, you did a roof, you didn't get paid, you want to get paid. Understandable. Right. So, but it shouldn't fall on the guy that your client sold the house to pay for that. And that's why we come in and make sure they're not going to have to deal with that. For some reason, that past person didn't. Obviously that's going to be on them if they didn't have it happen. That's why a judgment comes into play. That's kind of the difference between a lien and a judgment. A lien is being placed by that third party. A judgment's when there's been legal action taken, and now it's a problem with the local municipality or the state, whatever it might be, right?
Okay. So who pays for title insurance? Is that from the buyer, the seller? Whose responsibility is title insurance?
So there's kind of how do I say this? I would say it is the seller. It's coming out of the proceeds ultimately. When you go into whenever you're signing the paperwork at the closing table, you're going to have the master statement breaking down who's paying what, where all the money's being divided. Obviously, the seller's getting this amount, the buyer might be credited this amount, whatever it might be. The realtor's getting their commission. Everybody loves that, right?
Yeah, they love it.
So typically it comes out of the seller's portion of it. That's essentially what we call an owner's policy. That's when the seller's transferring the title cleanly over to the buyer. Typically, so you have that, and then if there's a loan involved, let's say the buyer is getting an FHA, VA, whatever it might be, they're going to get a loan policy from that lender, and that's going to be covering the lender for whatever that loan amount might be. But in the case of a cash deal, it's just going to be the owner's policy. The buyer's going to pay maybe $100 for a cash closing. Moving on, everybody's, we're done.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And what's that cost usually to a seller? Is it
Say it
based
again?
on purchase price or is it a flat fee, the cost for the?
Yeah, good question. So with the owner's policy and all of that, it's usually based off of the purchase price of the property, and that can escalate depending on how much that is. So, typically a base policy, I want to say for the standard state rate filing right now is about 525, and that starts at about $15,000. And then it
Okay.
just kind of goes up from there. And then as time, as obviously as the purchase price goes up, the amount of liability goes up, so therefore that's going to be a higher cost for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So tell me, what makes Chicago Title stand out from the other title companies out there? Why does someone want to use Chicago Title over, I'm not going to throw any other title companies under the bus, but what makes you guys stand out?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's plenty of great title companies out there. There's a lot of great reps out there and all the different types of companies. I've met a lot of good colleagues in the industry through my competitors. They're great people, but I mean, in essence, Chicago Title is, it's got the resources of like a Fortune 300 company. I believe we were on like the 238 this last year. We're a string of title companies across the entire nation. So we have an entire network that we can help you out. So if you have a closing happening in California, or you're going to be traveling out of state, whatever it might be, let's say you got a closing in Lake Geneva, but you're going to be down in Florida that week, the day of the closing, we can have that flexibility to meet you wherever you need to be in order to get this done. On top of that, you also we have an entire network of resources that can help you just continue to grow your business, especially as a realtor, whether that's through our net seller sheet application, Chicago Agent One. We have an online mobile closing dashboard. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that yet, but it's actually called In Here, and you're able to keep track of all of your closings and your transactions in real time. And you can have access to all your closing documents right there. Eventually, we want to get it to where you can even just do the entire signing on this application, and you could just be out and about, getting coffee, having lunch. You don't even have to worry about coming to the closing. Just get on a call with the closer. Off we go. Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's got the, how do I say this in a professional manner? It's got the resources of like a Fortune 238 company, but we also have that small town feel where it's just a string of a bunch of small offices coming together. Everybody there is local. Everybody there knows the community. Whatever office you go into, they're all just local people from that area, and they know the community inside and out. So it's like you get the resources of a big company, but then you also get that feel of a small business, which I kind of love, that little balance between the two of them. It's not like a huge corporate setting. Everybody's kind of in a big happy family, I almost like to say.
Yeah, no, and I think the way everyone's shifting nowadays in technology, I wouldn't be surprised if the next year we're able to do remote closings where all you do is picking up a phone, you take a picture of your ID, so they have, your face next to your ID. Or something
The
like
facial
that.
recognition and all that. I mean, the technology is advancing a lot faster since I even started.
Yeah.
I always like to say with real estate, I almost feel like the technological side of things, we're almost like 5 years behind, and we're just now starting to catch up with what the rest of the world's doing, right?
Oh, hands down.
When I was about a year into the job, we actually launched this In Here platform, and that was, I almost felt like that was industry changing, just because it gave people that accessibility to see what's happening in real time. Now you constantly have lenders, you have realtors calling into the office, hey, where's this? Where are my wire instructions? Where, what's going on? There's a cavalcade of stuff that just that application by itself can help you just minimize so much work.
Yeah.
I say late work wise. You can see all of your documentation. You can talk to the closer real time. You can talk to everybody relevant to the transaction. For each transaction, you'll have a group chat set up right there, like you're texting, your buddies or something on the weekend, you're getting ready to go golfing. But hey, we closing on Monday still? What office we at? Boom, boom, boom. Everybody kind of stays in the loop on it. And that's kind of the beauty of this kind of technology. And still in its infant phases, it's going to get bigger over time and just continue to, evolve and become, just a huge part of the process for everybody in the transaction.
Right. What else? I'm gonna veer off a little bit because we're talking about Chicago Title and the technology. I've used the In Here app. It's phenomenal. My last couple closings have been with Chicago Title, and our closer's done a phenomenal job for us. So it's been huge. It was really nice. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
What else can a title company do for us as even real estate agents, or even as a home buyer or seller? What can a title company do for us?
So as far as what we try to do, what was that?
I'm getting off script. Sorry.
No. I love it. It's great conversation. Obviously every title company can offer you great service. We can pitch all of that to you and tell you, hey, we're going to be faster than the other guy. We're going to be more efficient than the other guy. We'll get you an answer faster than the other guy. We can always say that. But the beauty of where we're at as a title company, like I said, we have the resources of a Fortune 300 company, and we can offer a lot of additional sources to help you grow as an agent and help you kind of take those next steps in your career, so to speak, the more serious you get. One thing I like to do is, as far as helping a lot of the newer agents that I work with that are coming into the industry right now, especially with the market being as tough as it is I like to help provide farming lists, so to speak. Okay. So we have a program called Title Pro 247. What that can do is basically just pull some general information. Let's say you want to do a postcard program, maybe take it a little old school. I mean, some people still like doing that. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, don't knock it. It works. I've got 3 listings.
Door knockers, right?
Off my postcard system. So yeah, don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah. But it just gives you some general background information on, like, maybe let's say you sold the house in a subdivision and you want to, see if you can catch any other fish in that pond over there, so to speak. You can do a search within that radius of that property, or you can just pull a general list for, like, let's say Walworth County. You want to see all the foreclosure lists. You want to see delinquent taxes. Maybe somebody's trying to get out of a secondary property that they don't want anymore. It could be an Airbnb for all we know, whatever it might be. But we have the capability to kind of take it a step beyond just giving you a smooth closing and, being a great service to you. We can become a resource to help you continue to grow your brand, your company. We have a lot of different marketing materials as well, kind of built in that Chicago Agent One app. I believe I talked to you and Brad about that a little while back, but it's a net seller sheet application. It gives you almost a close to exact number to give to your clients, like what they're going to be netting out of this deal after they're done. It includes our fees. It'll include, the fee for interest rates and taxes in that whatever county you might be in. And then there's also a bunch of marketing material that's built into there too. So you guys can post that on your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever it might be, and just continue to just showcase why you're the best agent out there, right? So we just like to be more than just a title company. We want to be a partner with you and your brokerage to help you continue to grow your brand. And that's kind of a big part of why I love working with this company.
That's awesome. Now you mentioned foreclosures. Is that a list that kind of is, how do you get that? Like, is it provided to you through the bank's got to put a lien on it, or how does that work? And what's that look like? I mean, are we talking about foreclosures that are happening in the next month? Are they foreclosures that are, all of a sudden they're just behind?
Typically, I like to go off of delinquent taxes, and they're, on the edge of foreclosure. But I mean, there's also a list you can make separately where it's just, they're under foreclosure. They're owned by the bank. Now, here's the properties where you can go after. Here's maybe the lender that's under it right now. If you want to try to take a crack at it, by all means, right? So if that's something you want to talk about offline, we can do another call after this.
Yeah, we need to talk about that offline.
Yeah, I can tell you what I talk about. They got a little excited there for a second.
I did. Some eyes light up that big. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I saw your eyes kind of light up. You're like, oh, we can do that.
Yeah, we can get more money. So what, why is someone, besides being a Fortune 300 company or 238, I think you said, right? Why would someone really choose Chicago Title over some of the local, we got a couple here in Burlington, smaller family-owned title companies and Lake Travis thing. Why Chicago Title?
Like I said, I mean, we're a string of small companies, but we have the powerhouse resources of, a large company at the same time. Our sister company is Fidelity National Financial. Having them at our back since that merger happened back in, I believe, like 2001 or something, it's just helped the company grow exponentially, and just being able to provide that financial stability to pay out claims, especially when, we're in a time and age where, it can be a little difficult. One claim can bury a title company. I mean, if you're a smaller mom and pop joint, I mean, if it's a sizable claim, that can put a company down just like that. So, I mean, it's on one hand, it's, you want to be able to cover that and not have to even get to that point. But in, God forbid, a situation where maybe the underwriter might have missed something and we have to pay out that claim, there's that financial stability to take that and pay it. And then it's not going to fall on your client of all people.
Right.
So, like I said, you get the small town business feel, but you also have the financial backing of, a Fortune 238 company. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, just knowing that support's there is key.
Yeah.
Right? What, As an agent, with new listings, we do search and holds. Can you talk about the importance of search and holds and how they could impact a new listing or not?
Yeah, so that's actually I always get a kick out of that because that's part of one of my morning routines is I'm going down, reaching out to agents that I might be working with, or maybe I'm just starting to work with. And I always say, search and hold, search and hold, search and hold. Like, let's get out ahead of this thing. No matter, it doesn't matter if the market's slow, the market's hot. I always say, get on it now and move on. And so when we get somebody under contract, we can call it a day. So just kind of backpedal a little bit. A search and hold is essentially a preliminary commitment that we can make. We get the seller's information, we get information on the property. And for you as the agent, you're able to get some background on, what you're getting yourself into, as far as like liens and judgments and some easements that might be attached to the property. And it kind of paints a bit of a picture for you. So you kind of know what we're going to have to deal with when we get around closing time. Obviously, we'll get a jump on it a little bit early, but when you already have half the work done, by the time you get a buyer under contract, all we got to do is plug in that information and we can close way faster. It makes the process so much smoother. And underwriting loves it because they don't have to do as much work after the fact. They just, plug in the buyer info. This isn't going to take me that long. Boom, boom, boom. Off we go. So it's very helpful as far as just making the process go smoother. It makes you look better as the agent because you can close a lot sooner, right? It makes us happy because we're able to, just get everything in the pipeline. We know what to expect, and it just makes the process so much smooth.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said at the beginning there. Search and holds, what I like about them is you all of a sudden get to see all the unknowns. If there's a lien against property that the owners didn't know about, you can address it well before, a week before closing or whatever that timeline is.
Yep.
You see it ahead of time. You're like, hey, did you know you had this lien for getting your windows replaced 20 years ago? They're like,
yeah, exactly. My favorite situation is when they have like a child support lien, and it's like Bob Smith, like a very, very common name. Right. Yeah. And then, how many Bob Smiths are there in Wisconsin, Illinois, blah, wherever the heck we're at. You got to go in there and you got to basically got to prove that you're not the Bob Smith who owes $35,000 in back child support, whatever it might be. But like I said, we kind of have ways to avoid that problem up front. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about our in here application. You might have seen emails like this already. You might have heard it from your clients, but part of it here is we can actually reach out to your clients as well. We get some general background information on the property so we can make the search that much smoother up front as well. So we're trying to get a cell phone number and the best email to reach your client. And we'll have the closer actually send an email out to them. It'll give them some general information up front, just saying, hey, I'm going to be helping you out with 123 Smith Street. Click here to view the order, blah, blah, blah. You go onto this portal and it'll just ask for general information, primary property, give your social number, all of that general information, and then that automatically plugs into our file for you. So when our underwriters start doing the search through public records, they know exactly who they're dealing with and who's associated with that property. And it just makes things so much easier. So we don't even have to worry about that popping up on the search up front. Just makes life that much easier. Now, some of the people might not be a fan of that because, they think, it's a Russian hacker trying to, send me fake wire instructions, I'm going to lose, my earnest money, whatever it might be. But it's one of the most secure ways to make sure that we're getting the right person, we're getting the money in the right spot, and we can just make this go, everything chug along nice and smooth.
Yeah. Let's kind of want to talk about that too a little bit, Adam. Wire fraud, huge deal right now. How do you guys handle wire fraud? How are you communicating with buyers and sellers when it comes to, the process for wire fraud? Because it's a big talk. You see it in everyone's email line right now.
Yeah, everybody's always freaking out and, call the check and all of that. It can be, it's a scary thing because it's a constant problem that people deal with to this day. Yeah. There's people, there's boogeymen in the closet all over the world trying to, they're just sitting on their laptop waiting to intercept that email and off they go. And it can be freaky. I've seen it happen before a few different times since I started. We've been able to catch it, thank goodness, but they try, trust me, they're out there. They'll try to mimic my email. They've tried mimicking some of my closers' emails in the past. And they pull out every trick that they can think of. But something that we've been able to do to combat this even is we've been able to firewall a lot of our servers and encrypt a lot of emails and make things just much more secure from an upfront standpoint. And then if you're not 100% sure about what the email you're receiving, just call us and we can take a look at it for you. I've had it happen before where they're like, I'm not sure if is this from you or one of your closers. The email, it says here's the wire instructions, this encrypted email, but not 100% sure, especially if you're not as tech savvy. It can be kind of daunting. Typically I'll take a look at it. I can tell within a couple of seconds whether or not that's from us or not. And it's pretty straightforward from there. But like I said, when we get with the in here platform, when you get that email and your buyer, your seller's filling out all that general information, especially if you're the buyer, once you get all the information filled out, the wire instructions will already be in there waiting for you to go. So all you gotta do is print that out and go to your bank. Here's the wire number. It's usually through US Bank, I believe. And then off we go. So, I mean, we've created a very safe process, I would say, overall, but I mean, it's still something you got to combat every day, because they're always going to get creative. They see we make a move, they try to make 2 steps, and then we got to stay 2 steps at them at all times. So it's a constant battle, man. It's a lot of fun now.
So the key takeaway there is, if you have questions about the wire instructions,
Just call. Yeah.
Email, just call them, because I mean, especially when you're dealing with such a large sum of money, we don't.
Yeah. If you're wiring $100,000 and you're not sure, I would call real quick just to make sure. Yeah, just a phone call could save you sometimes. I mean, that's all it takes. And then if you're, you can send the email off to us. You obviously have our information. We could take a look at ourselves and understand whether or not this is from us, or if this is from somebody, some outside third party trying to steal from you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Adam, before we wrap up here, anything else you want to share with the viewers when it comes to Chicago Title, about yourself, anything like that?
Did you want to get into the JV that me and Brad were talking about previously?
Yeah, we can go into that.
Sure. So I'll just give you a basic overview. This is something that for any realtors watching, if you're interested in talking about it a little bit more, this is going to be a market changer, as I like to say. So we recently opened a joint venture. It's called Wisconsin Wide Title. It's essentially a joint venture. Vince, I don't know if you know the concept of a joint venture, and the typical model of that. Usually it's the head of a brokerage. They partner up with ABC Title Company. They open up a new LLC, essentially. That's a new title company. And they take 49 to a 51% interest within that. And then obviously they're just trying to pump listings through that as much as they can to get ROI on their investments. It's great for them, but people within the brokerage might not necessarily feel like, hey, I'm not getting anything out of this. Why are you telling me go to this company? Right.
Yep.
Beauty of this thing is it's called a multi-member joint venture. It's starting to become a pretty popular model throughout the country. Essentially what you can do is it's a joint venture that anybody can sign up for. I mean, we could take a look at the overall volume we've had over the years. We're able to make an initial offering to you. So, I mean, we could sign up people in Burlington, we could sign up people over at Compass, whatever it might be, but it's beauty because you can come right in and become an investor and create a passive income stream for yourself while really not changing too much of your process. And you also have part ownership in a title company, which, obviously in typical joint venture models, if you're the head of a brokerage, it's fantastic, but what's there for the rest of us? The beauty of this thing, anybody can sign up. So I don't want to get too much into detail, obviously, but if anybody's interested in talking and listening to this, we'll include my information after this. And, I'd love to have a deeper conversation with anybody who might want to become an investor.
Adam, go ahead and throw your information in the chat, because once we share this, I upload it to YouTube and I'll share it on YouTube, and
Sure.
Zoom will be there as well. So go ahead and throw your information in the chat. I'll also throw the information in the YouTube link once we go live with the YouTube link.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely reach out to Adam and his team. This joint venture, Brad and I got into last April, May, June, somewhere in there, I think it was. Great opportunity. Not a big investment. I'm not sure what it is today, so I'm not going to speak on dollars, but
sure.
Yeah,
you get ROI relatively quickly.
But we did. Let's just say that we did. So
yeah,
we'll keep that open. But it's open, I believe, is it just real estate agents or is it investors? It's not necessarily everyone. You got to show some productivity.
Typically, it's going out to realtors. We're usually looking at overall listing volume in order to make an initial offering on that. So typically, that's kind of the avenue we're trying to go after there, and we want to make sure we continue to grow it. We started back in October. We're close to about 70 investors now, and it's just blowing up right now. I mean, it's become a bulk of part of my day-to-day, just making sure we're continuing to grow that pool, and we're making you guys happy that are already in the pool. But it's definitely taken off, and I'm just excited to see where it's going to be in a year from now, even.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, Adam, anything else?
I'm all set, man. I appreciate you just taking
Adam
time to meet with
Bradshaw
me
with
today.
Chicago Title, everyone. Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Adam. I'm Vince Devall with Eagle Homes and EXP Realty. Have a great week. Bye.